The second half, I think, was 4 points each. So what Cork did in the second half was try to ensure that the game degenerated into a very scrappy affair which suited them perfectly.
OK, now we've had a lot of emails in about the referee's performance today, and particularly about the sending off of Alan O'Connor of Cork. And now there are some emails who say John Bannon had it correct with the 2 yellow cards. Tony, if we take a look at the sending off and the red card...
Take a look at the first one where he was booked. OK. Yeah. I suppose, looking at the game totally objectively, the first one, the ground was wet, and O'Connor does go in and make contact with him. Yes, you could say that certainly was a yellow card. OK, it could be argued that it could have been a black book as well. Yeah. He could have slipped. The second one, though, I can't see how that was a yellow card. He wasn't even looking at him when he went in for it. There was a collision, but there was no malice whatsoever in that. Harsh, and it spoiled the whole game, does it? Spoiled the game, really. Like, up to that, it was pure football by both teams, but after that, really, it was a matter of holding on to what you had.
Well, it fundamentally changed the game, didn't it, Anthony?
Well, I think it changed the course of the game, but in a way, I think that sending off sort of worked in Cork's favour, because there's a danger playing against any side. If you get in at half-time with a few points up, that complacency starts to set in, you think you've got the job done. I think with a man down, Cork were forced to really, really push on in that second half and really dig deep, and their players stood up and they had a cause to be in that second half to be counted. And I think, OK, it changed the course of the game, but I don't think it dictated the outcome of the game. I think Cork were going to win today. Yeah, we usually see a team that goes down to 14 men.
I thought Cork were going to beat them easy, and I think that it threw Tyrone a lifeline. I'm sure John Bannon didn't want to be the centre of attention, but, it was a poor decision. I thought the first one, in the context of a game where there was no malice or no rancour whatsoever, and it was a proper game of football for the first 25 minutes with everybody going at it, hammer and tongs, in a very sporting manner. So, like, this sort of came as a bolt out of the blue, and I felt that it did ruin the game as a spectacle.
The manner in which Mulligan went to the ground, I mean, the referee is looking at that. Did that influence him? Yeah,
well, Mulligan is a bit theatric in the way that he goes down, and we can see it in another incident later. I'm sure Mulligan didn't want to get him sent off. He probably wanted to get a free in. So, I think referees are in trouble trying to interpret too whether a player is diving, whether a player is, legitimately tackled. But I think in Alan O'Connor's case, contact was minimal, so, like... if the referee wanted to penalise him, he could have given him a black book or a word in his ear, say you're sailing close to the wind. But, when you saw what happened in the second half, and like Graham Canty certainly, obviously decided he's not going to send off another one of us and I can do what I like.
Well, we'll chat about that in a minute. That's where he went in, his knees went into the back of one of the Tyrone lads. But
yes,
there were other decisions then, as Colin says, that being one of them.
I think there was loads of decisions that happened throughout the game that left both sets of spectators, frustrated with the referee. You see, John Muskler, why he does that, it's just the referee's his back turned. It was actually the umpire that picked that up. It's a yellow card, but it's a strike. And
but Tony, it looked like there was a bit of movement in the arm of Brian McGuigan as well.
It looks like McGuigan went back. There was some messing going on, and John went out and struck him on the back of the head, and down McGuigan went as if he was shot by something.
There's a free given against Joe McMahon for picking the ball. Honest pick-up, correct pick-up. Martin Penrose gets a free for that for some reason, unknown to all around. Brian Dooher there going forward, and you see Nicholas Murphy coming in over the shoulder. There's contact there. It's enough to put Brian Dooher over. No freeze given for that one.
Yeah, that's a certain foul. You can't, come in on a player from behind. And in this one, it's very obvious Dooher is boring in, and it was at the time of Alan O'Connor. Defender does reasonably well trying to keep him out, and referee gives a free in. So there was a lot of decisions like that throughout the game, which...
Yeah, there was a lot of decisions, and when we were watching the game, there he goes down again nice and easily, actually. In fact, I don't think it was a free. I can see why the referee did give a free, because his hand was up high on his shoulder, but certainly he made the most of it. But when we were watching the game, we made a note of, that wasn't a free, or that mightn't be a free, or something like that. But we went back through them afterwards, OK? And we went through quite a lot of them. We went through about 20 incidents in the game, and the referee was right, or I can see where he interpreted a free in quite a lot of them. Now, a lot of them were wrong. Yeah. But we can see where the frees were awarded. But certainly watching the game, it was frustrating. It was really frustrating watching the game.
Well, my feeling is it's very, very difficult to referee Gaelic football on that side of a pitch when it's played at the pace that game was played at today. And I think there's a big case to be made for linesmen having a bit more authority than they have at the minute. On the Alan O'Connor's first yellow, it was clear to all that he slipped. You had a linesman standing 20 yards away, unable to tell the referee, well, he's actually slipped.
Yeah,
He
but
should
my
give more
feeling-
authority to linesmen.
My
I think.
feeling throughout the second half of the game in particular that Tyrone found it increasingly difficult to get frees in the scoring area. A lot of the tackling that went done by Cork backs, could be interpreted one way or the other. I felt that, the fact that Cork were down a man, it meant that they got away with a bit more than you would normally get away
Colin,
with.
as you know,
but Cork were by far the better team anyway.
Yeah,
as you know, playing when a man gets sent off, you do feel a sense of injustice, and you do raise your game, you up the intensity, and sometimes you do play on the edge. But a lot of these Cork players have been in All-Ireland semi-finals and been beaten for the last 5-6 years. It's time now for them to be winners and to move on, as you know. There's time to play football and there's time to win games. And I thought today they brought it to a new level.
In terms of going back to the referee's performance, the referees, it was a frustrating day. He didn't have a good day on the pitch, but he didn't dictate the outcome of the game. Cork won by 5 points. They were good value for the victory and deserved to win.
There's a clip here that really interested me, and it's a reflection back to 5 or 6 years ago when Tyrone really established themselves on the national stage with that performance against Kerry. And we're talking about the interpretation of how Tyrone played then and now. Look at this.
Well, this is the infamous clip that sort of defined modern day football in so many ways, where we talk about intensity and desire and all of that, and Tyrone typified that in 2003 against Kerry.
It's amazing.
It's interesting, John Bannon was standing on the line that day and saw all of this unfold. Jerry Kennevy was refereeing, and all of this was allowed to go on. No free was given for any of this, yet you could probably identify a number of free kicks, and it brought about a sense that whenever Tyrone or Armagh or other sides swarmed players around the man in possession, that the benefit of the doubt was given to those that were doing the swarming around, and the guy in possession was almost penalised. But today we saw an incident where ball's played out midfield, Nicholas Murphy catches it straight away, 3 Tyrone men around him, and referee doesn't allow the situation to develop, gives a free kick straight away to Cork. So Mickey Hart referred to different interpretation in his post-match interview, and that's possibly the kind of thing that he's on about. Tyrone depend on that type of intensity.
Yes, but I think going back the years that it was a free initially to Kerry, I think it was a free to Nicholas Murphy. And if you live by the sword, you perish by it too.
Yeah, but when does the referee decide to referee the game differently than what did a couple of years ago?
The ones we were debating about.
Why don't they come and talk to managers, come and talk to players, tell them how they're going to referee the game, and allow players a chance, not find it out in an All-Ireland semi-final.
But isn't it great to see the guy winning the ball, getting the advantage when he comes down? That should be encouraged at all.
The player in possession should get advantage.
Colin, this afternoon I got the impression from the panel that you think this is the end of Tyrone.
Well, it's not the end of Tyrone, because obviously at colleges level and at minor level they continue to churn out high quality individual players and high quality teams. But you would have to say that it's probably the end of the likes of Brian Dooher and Brian McGuigan. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to retire, but Brian Dooher has played this year with severe injuries. He's unlikely to go through the pain barrier again. Maybe Conor Gormley. A lot of these players, and the value that they have given to Tyrone supporters and to the football in general over the last few years has just been immense. But, every dog has his day, and the sands of time caught up with Tyrone today in a way that they lacked the pace and they lacked the intensity which they normally put everybody else to the sword. And today, Cork turned it on its head.
One thing you haven't mentioned, lads, Sean Kavanagh didn't start.
Huge influence on the game, actually. Psychologically, for both teams. For Tyrone, he's their leader, he's been their best player. He's probably the icon of most kids in the country watching Gaelic football. But for Cork as well, knowing that he wasn't there, it must have been a huge boost for those guys.
He was worth 4 or 5 points almost every
Even
game.
In the last minute of the game, he hit the post when he got in. That guy's a super player.
McGinley, who's been one of Tyrone's key players over the last 3 or 4 years, been injured. He came into the game lacking a wee bit of fitness. But I think you have to accept that those Tyrone players have created a dynasty, certainly in terms of football in our part of the world. Marvellous players, great men, and I think they're entitled to decide whenever they retire, not us.
There's this myth out there that the southern media or the southern people don't like Tyrone as a team.
That's you're talking about.
But that's not true. They have been great champions and they've given us some fantastic days. We all celebrated when they won their first All-Ireland. It was fantastic.
It's just because they beat Kerry. That's
they were fantastic champions, to go away and win in Croke Park. It's like when Armagh won their first game,
I think, Tony, we've also been taken by their modesty.
Yeah.
Taken by the fact that Mickey Hart has been so helpful. Any club does his best. And I said it often, they're a team without ego. They just go out and play, and they don't want to be sort of treated as kings or whatever. But they have been fantastic ambassadors for the
champions.
Here. Okay, so well done to the Tyrone lads. No, consolation tonight. But Tony, who were the nominees then for man of the match?
Well, I suppose the nominations today, they were all Cork. Today you had Pierce O'Neill, who was fantastic today for them. He was all over the field. In fact, he was one of the best players around. He was some energy and strength going down the middle. Colm O'Neill was fantastic at full forward as well. And centre field, we have Graham Canty at centre back. Great player, great leader, fantastic player right through, and a leader right through the year for them.
And Anthony, who did you decide to give it to?
In the end, we went for Graham Canty, but I have to say it wasn't a clear-cut decision. There were strong cases could have been made today for a number of players, but ultimately, you know, when leadership was required, he was the one that typified that effort from Cork. He is the one that's led them through the turmoil of the last couple of winters of unrest with management and all of that. There are more talented footballers in the country, but I don't believe there's any footballer in the country who possesses the will to win that he has, and he certainly pushed himself to the limits today. He pushed the boundaries of the rules of the game to the limits. He did what he had to do today to win, and in a team performance by Cork. As we said, it was a team performance, but he was, for us anyway,
his physical bravery too is incredible. He doesn't mind sticking his head in everywhere. He'll go to block kicks, he'll dive in. You know, he was fantastic.
And one important point here is, up to a few years ago, the county champions in Cork always nominated the captain, but they changed that recently, and Graham has been nominated as captain. And look, he's been a true leader since he's 16, 17 years old. He's a great leader. And
his courage even went as far as meeting Marty Morrissey after the match. So let's hear from him now.
Well, Anne O'Leary, a very proud Cork woman, by the way, Enterprise Director for Vodafone, is going to present the GA Football Man of the Match Award to Graham Canty, the Cork captain. Graham, may I say, in particular, the defence were outstanding today. You really gelled it together rather well, didn't you?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, every line kind of played well, but, you know, when you're playing a team like Tyrone, you have to be on your game, and, you know, I suppose we defended kind of 1 to 15, and, you know, that's what you have to do against a very good team like Tyrone.
And did you think perhaps the whole game plan would be upset by the fact of Alan O'Connor being sent off?
Yeah, I suppose Alan was unlucky to get a second yellow, but, you know, that's what happens. You know, we said at half time that we put in an extra special effort for him, because, you know, Alan is probably one of our hardest workers in the field. Like, you know, he runs around like a terrier. Like, he never stops running. He's left, right, he's kind of everywhere. Like, he's, you know, always has the highest tackle count, you know, when you get the stats at the end of the game. So we said we'd you know, a special effort for Alan at half time.
All-Ireland football final again for Cork, but you look a lot stronger, more balanced this time around, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, that's it. It's, you know, it's only a semi-final win, and it's a pat into the final, and you know, we've won nothing yet. So you know, whoever we play in the final in either Kerry, it'll be a tough day out, you know, and we'll have to be on top of our game and have to improve another notch to try and capture it.
All right then, good stuff, Graham. Still to come on the programme, the minor semi-final between Kerry and